Oi oi, Ruby's wearing some makeup in a video for once. Hey. So hey guys, today I am going to be showing you how I handmade my prom dress, i.e. summer ball dress. I thought it would be more generic to just call it a prom dress and make that so much easier. So I'm going to put up pictures here so you can see what the final dress actually looked like, but as I talk through I can kind of show you bit by bit about how I made it. So to start off, I had a kind of initial idea of what I wanted the dress to look like, so I started to sketch out some design. I knew I wanted a corset-like top and a kind of drop down from the skirt, and I knew I wanted it kind of in between my knee and foot length. So the next step was to figure out what sort of material I wanted, what colours, and to look for inspiration. So I found some inspiration on Pinterest and some Instagram. Again, I'll put photos of that up so you can see what I was working with, and then all clustered that into the final designs that I drew. So the two materials I was looking at was silk and satin. I knew I wanted that really luxurious look to it. The corset I was looking at anyway was satin, so I went for the satin to make a good pairing up with the two. I also went for a red colour because the theme of our ball was night at the movies and I wanted to have like a really classic look to it, so that's why I chose the red. The reason I didn't make the corset and bought that pre-made is two reasons. One, I actually didn't have very much time to make the garment, and two, because I have made a corset before and it's quite time consuming and difficult because you have to apply the boning, which is what gives it the structure, and it was 10 quid on eBay, so I thought I might as well buy it and that will be essentially half the dress done for me. So this is what my corset looks like. As you can see, it's the really nice red satin and it does up at the front, and at the back you have the normal lace up and the ties so you can tighten or loosen it as you wish. It's got this extra bit of satin inside which folds over the eyelets, so it's nice and covered on your back and it's really comfortable. So I looked at the guide for this and I bought a medium, which was 8 to 10, I think. The reason I didn't go for 6 to 8 is because obviously it's a corset and I didn't want to be uncomfortable all night, so I went for the slightly bigger one and just pulled the laces as tight as possible. So when moving on to the skirt, I'll show you what this looked like in the end if I can, but obviously there's the photo. So this was the final skirt. As you can see, they are separate garments. I thought it was easier to make the skirt to be able to just do up on top of the corset and add the embellishments to the corset at the end. So how I made this skirt is I got this red satin from eBay. I got 3 meters worth. It was probably like £4 or £5, which was a really good price because, as I said, the corset was 10, so all in all the dress only cost me like 17 quid to make because I had to get some elastic and a zip, and that was about it. So what I did when I had my satin is I had to figure out my measurements. So what I did when I had my satin is I had to figure out my measurements so I could create myself a paper pattern and I could work off that. So when you're creating a skirt pattern, essentially you need to find out the length of the skirt that you want, which you can measure from your hip to obviously the length of the skirt, and I had mine, as I said, in between my knee and my legs, so I measured that, and on a piece of paper I drew out the picture so I could write the measurements next to it and follow it. So that was the length of the skirt, and then you also have to find the radius of the skirt, and this will be around your waist. So what you do with that is you measure in inches, and mine was 29 inches, and then you add on another 2. This is for extra give and for if you are paneling. And so what I did is I added it to 31, and then you have to divide it by 6.28. I will put those numbers up there and I will probably write it in a blog post as well so you can follow it more easily. So by dividing it by 6.28 you actually find the radius of the skirt, and that is the measurement you follow. Again, I would write this all down so you have a simple sheet of paper that you can follow along with. Because I knew I wanted a flowy skirt, I actually added, I believe, another 2 inches onto the radius of my skirt, and this is the radius, so the final measurement that I had, because I wanted to add pleats at the top so it would come in more at the waist and the extra material would drop and give a really nice shape. By doing this, it literally just meant that I had the extra material to work with to pleat, but the steps are the same no matter how big your radius is. So once you've got your measurements, you need to cut this out in a paper pattern. So you're going to need quite a big piece of paper for this, especially because I had a long skirt and I wanted quite a big swing to it. So this is my paper pattern that I used for my skirt. So this is the top, this is my radius, and this was the one I added the extra 2 inches, and then I just went along to the bottom. So when creating your paper pattern, you take your tape measure at the end, you measure it along the line, and you draw a little marker. You go on around and you draw your little marker until you essentially get your semicircle of material each equal length from the edge of the paper. After this, you cut that out and make your oval shape, and that will be the top of your pattern paper, which will make up your waist. With the bottom, you do exactly the same thing, but again, you do it with the length measurements that you have done. So this is why you need quite a big piece of paper, because it's going to have quite a large swing. So again, you want to make sure that matching up with the curvature of your waist, that you have the equal amount on the skirt to the length of the skirt. So once you've drawn that out and cut that out, that is your paper pattern, and that is essentially what you will be following onto the material. So once you've got that, lay that out on your satin. I folded my satin twice, so once and then once again, so I would cut out only one panel and I would have 4 separate ones. So they are exactly the same size, and it's just a lot easier to do. A way that you can keep everything in place is if you actually pin your paper pattern to your fabric. So the next step is simply joining the 4 panels that you have together. The only thing that you need to make aware of is that you've got the right side together and you don't have front and backs joining. Satin's a really easy material to work with because of this, because it's got the shiny side and then it's kind of got the muted side. You need to always make sure that the shiny side is the front, and that's what you're putting up against together. So if I show you, so you can see that I've put the 2 shiny sides together, just run a line on the sewing machine so that when you roll it out, and this is the front ways, it's really seamless. So you need to do that all the way around, leaving one of these sides open. So it wasn't a complete skirt because I left this side open. The reason for that, as you can see, is I added a zip. So next I did the paneling. This is a really easy way to get that really nice drop onto your skirt, and it's actually really easy to do. So what I did is I took 2 sides of the material under my thumbs and you fold both in. That creates a panel. Then once you've pinned all your panels, you again just take the machine and do a really easy line across. The last thing I did was I made a waistband. This was done by simply cutting out a long strip of satin, hemming both ends, which simply means folding over the end of the fabric and just running along a line on the sewing machine to make it all neat. I did this on both ends. I've used the same method. I pressed the silky side onto the silky side of the skirt, lay them on top of each other, and just run a really easy line on the sewing machine to join all of those up together. So once you've done that and you've joined up the back of your skirt, you should have a complete skirt. And it doesn't matter if it's not the neatest because obviously it's handmade, but probably the most important thing is just to hem your ends just so they don't fray. So lastly, I added some sleeves onto my corset, as you can see here. These sat just resting on my shoulders. So what I did for these is similar to the waistband. I took a thicker strap of the satin, hemmed both edges, and then I bunched them up to make sure that they would sit, as you can see, these slightly bunched up, to sit nicely on my shoulder. And then I just did a quick line on the sewing machine and a quick line on the sewing machine. I did exactly the same on the other end, and then that just lay on my shoulder like that. I hope that made any sense at all. If you have any questions, please leave them below, and I hope that you guys want to start making some clothes, as it's super easy and it's really nice to have a custom made dress. So if you like this video, please leave a like, and if you're new to this channel, give me a subscribe, and I will see you next time, guys. Bye!